Hi, this is Krista at The Secret Yarnery. Welcome to How to Crochet for Beginners, class number 7. Today we're going to be learning treble crochet. To make the treble crochet coaster that matches the rest of our stitch set, you will need yarn. I'm using the same yarn from my other coasters. It is Savor from Ice Yarns, a 4 worsted weight acrylic. You will also need a crochet hook. I'm using a 6mm J hook. You'll need 2 stitch markers to keep track of your first and last stitches of your row, a pair of scissors, and a darning needle for sewing in your tails. So let's get started. To make your treble crochet, we're going to start with a slip knot. So lay your tail over your non-dominant hand, hold it down, wrap it around 2 fingers, making a little bit of an X. Tip your fingers over and poke that working yarn underneath the loop around your fingers and let it go. Shrink that down and pop it on to your crochet hook. You want to put it onto the fat part of your hook. And now chain 10. If you're not sure how to chain, I will link the How to Crochet for Beginners classes in the description box down below, as well as the cards up above. So just push your hook down onto your working yarn so it's underneath, and then tip it up. Turn your hook, and so the hook part is facing you, and bring it through that loop just like that. Now let go of everything, push it up onto the fat part of your hook. We want it to be relaxed and loose. Grab that chain you just made with your thumb and fingers and chain 9 more. So there is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there is 9 and 10. Now for treble crochets, they are equal to a chain 4. So holding that chain that we just made, just like that. Now we're going to chain 4, and we're going to chain normally. We don't have to chain super loose. So now we're just going to chain normally. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, just like that. Now we're going to roll our chain onto its side. We want to look for these back loops. So the first back loop is right underneath the working yarn. So there is 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to go in to the 5th one right here. So wrap your yarn twice and into the 5th back loop, the 5th chain. Just pop your hook in, grab your yarn and bring it through. Push that loop all the way up onto the fat part of your hook. Wrap your yarn and take off 2. Wrap your yarn and take off 2. Wrap your yarn and take off 2. So that is a triple takeoff, a triple crochet, or a treble crochet in US terms. And now we want to find that stitch we just made right there, and we're going to pop our stitch marker into that stitch right there, just like that. And now we're going to work into each of these back loops all the way along. So there is our next back loop. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 5. Each one of these back loops is going to get 1 treble crochet. So treble crochet, you start with wrapping your yarn twice, just like that. And then into the next back loop, pop your hook in, bring your yarn back, push everything up onto the fat part of your crochet hook. Grab your yarn, turn your hook so it's facing towards you. Bring it through the first 2 loops. Turn it so it's facing up your hook. Push everything back onto the fat part of your crochet hook. Grab your yarn again, turning your hook towards yourself, taking off 2. Hook facing up, everything back onto the fat part. Wrap your yarn again. Turn your hook towards yourself and take off those last 2 loops. So that is your triple takeoff, or your triple crochet, your treble crochet. So wrap your yarn twice into the next stitch, the next back loop just there. Bring your yarn through, Size everything up, so get it all fat on the big part of your hook. Wrap your yarn and take off 2. Wrap your yarn and take off 2. Wrap your yarn and take off 2. So now I'm going to show you what that looks like in slow motion. If it's hard for you to work into your chain to get that loop onto your hook, you might have chained too tightly, so you might want to go back and use a larger hook for just your chain, just those first 10 chains. At the end of our chain, we have our 1 chain left. So we have our knot, and then our back loop is this little guy right there that is waiting for our very last stitch, our last treble crochet. So wrap your yarn twice and into that last chain, just sliding that loop onto your hook, that back loop, 1 treble crochet. So triple, take off, wrap and take off 2, wrap and take off 2, wrap and take off 2. So that finishes our row. We can put a stitch marker on that stitch just to keep track of it so we know where it is when we turn. Just like that. And our chain does not count as a stitch in this pattern. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 treble crochets with that little chain 4 on the side. So the chain 4 isn't going to count for anything. And we're going to start again with a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. To turn your work, you want to slide your hand under your working yarn, grab your work, and turn it. Now our very first stitch is right where this stitch marker is, right there. So we're going to wrap our yarn twice, and you can remove that stitch marker if it's in your way. Go into that first stitch. You want to get 2 strands of that V on the top of your hook. Grab your yarn and bring it back. Wrap your yarn and take off 2. Make everything big on the fat part of your hook. Wrap your yarn and take off 2. And I'm moving my fingers up. I'm always holding right underneath where I'm working. Make those loops nice and big on the fat part of your hook. Wrap and take off 2. So that is the first treble crochet of the next row. So I'm going to move my stitch marker up. Just underneath that stitch, right underneath my hook. And now for this row, all of my stitches are these cute little dimples right here. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way along. 6, 7, 8, and 9, because I've already done 1 here. So wrap your yarn twice and into the next stitch right here. 2 strands of that V on the top of your hook. Grab your yarn and bring it back. And just notice how I'm moving my hands back and forth. Wrap your yarn and turn your hook towards yourself. Take off the first 2. I'm moving my fingers up to hold, sizing my yarn on the big part of my hook, grabbing my yarn again, turning my hook facing towards me, taking off 2, moving my hands up again, pushing those loops onto the fat part of my hook, wrapping my yarn, turning my hook towards myself, and taking off 2. So I'll show you what that looks like in slow motion. Just pay attention to how I'm moving my fingers. just like that. And then our last stitch is right here where our stitch marker is. So wrap your yarn twice and into that last stitch. Bring it back, wrap and take off 2. Always pushing your loops up to the fat part of your hook. Wrap and take off 2, push your hook in, wrap and take off 2. So now you can go ahead and pop that stitch marker onto that last stitch you made to mark your stitch when you turn your work. But I'm also going to show you what it looks like if you're not using stitch markers. So go ahead and do your chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Slide your hand under your working yarn, grab your work and turn it. Wrap your yarn twice, and your very first stitch is right here, right beside your chain. So if you follow your stitch all the way along the edge, it is the very first stitch is right here. So into that first stitch, 1 treble crochet. So bring your yarn back, take off 2, make everything big, wrap your yarn, take off 2, make everything big, wrap and take off 2. So now 1 treble crochet into each stitch all the way along. At the end of our row, our chain doesn't count as a treble crochet, so our last treble crochet is right here, and our stitch is right here, just on that hill. So no matter how big your stitches are, how tall they are, if it's single crochet, double crochet, half double, our last stitch is always at the top of the hill, just right there. So not into the chain, but into that last stitch right here. So wrap your yarn twice and into the top of that last treble crochet. Bring your yarn back, take off 2, wrap, take off 2, wrap, take off 2. So now we only have 1 more row to do because treble crochets are so tall. So chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Slide your hand under your working yarn, grab your work and give it a turn. So wrap your yarn twice and into that very first stitch right along that edge right here, we'll make our first treble crochet. And now 1 treble crochet into each stitch all the way across. At the end of our row, we have our chain, and our last stitch, our last treble crochet is right here. I'm going to pop it straight into the top of our real treble crochet. So that stitch right on the hill, wrap your yarn twice and your last treble crochet. So put your hook in, grab your yarn and bring it back, push everything up to get them a nice size, wrap your yarn, turn your hook, take off 2, push everything up so it's a nice size, wrap your yarn, turn your hook, take off 2, push everything up, wrap your yarn, turn your hook, and take off 2. So that finishes our treble crochet coaster. Now we're going to chain 1 to secure our yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later, 4 or 5 inches. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. Sew in your tails and you're finished. And you might notice for this block as well, those chain 4s are a little big. They give us loops, loop, 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 and loop. You could just reduce that to a chain 3 for this pattern if you want your squares to be a little more straight on the sides. But I wanted you to start with a chain 4, just so you associate treble crochet, chain 4, treble crochet, chain 4, because a chain 4 is the normal turning chain for the treble crochet stitch. So I hope you enjoyed making treble crochet. It sure does work up so quickly, right? Only 4 rows for treble crochet to make it the same size as our other coasters. But I'll be explaining the difference of these stitches more in an upcoming class. If you haven't joined and subscribed to this channel, go ahead and click those links down below. Love to have you join us. There's a ton of good things going on. And if you haven't found the rest of our How to Crochet for Beginner class series, there is a link to it in the cards up above as well as in the description box down below. So thanks for hooking along. We'll see you in the next class and stay hooked.